I'm building backwards from an unknown future, trying to figure out the things that we have to build to get there. And I think that's compelling, especially when you have a track record like I do of repeatedly building through down cycles, repeatedly innovating into the next generation of things. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying I feel pretty confident that we can build through this into the next decade.
Brian O'Kelly is the guy who helped build the ad exchange, broke the internet, literally, and now wants to burn brand safety to the ground and rebuild it with AI. He's part engineer, part disruptor, and fully allergic to the status quo.
Nobody does what we do. Multi-billion-dollar complex federal court litigation. We do it day in, day out. And we've built a team dedicated to doing nothing but keeping you safe in the most dangerous litigation in the world. We're comfortable where everybody else is horribly uncomfortable.
And with the litigation piece, we bring the compliance piece, right? That's what I'm adding. That's what my entire team is adding. We've built TCPA World only for you folks to help you folks out.
Lattin, and this is the ADOTAT Show. Today I'm talking to Brian O'Kelly, the guy who helped build modern ad tech, accidentally broke CNN, and now is rewriting the rules of brand safety with AI and maybe just a little bit of spike. We cover everything from bots demanding PTO to whether brand suitability tools are just blunt medieval flails. It's weird, it's smart, and it's wildly inconvenient. Buckle up. Brian, how are you really on a scale from keyword blocking to grandma's knitting blog to being subpoenaed by Congress for brand adjacency crimes? Where are you emotionally these days?
Down. I think a lot of people are right now. I mean, every day it feels like I open the news and it's like Pope Francis died. Like, that's like not the most shocking thing that happened this week. You know, but no, I'm just saying, like, we live in these crazy times where, like, who knows what's going to happen. So I feel like today, all told, it's like, I'm feeling pretty good.
So the simple question here, it's so broken in brand safety that you decide, screw it, I'll build the AI myself?
I would say it's less that what's broken and more what's possible. So from my perspective, you know, playing with AI for the last year, like really intensely, like really deeply, I just was like, well, what is AI, what are these LLMs really good at? They're really good at understanding content and understanding like what it's about and doing it in a way that is far more nuanced and more human in a way than anything else. And I was like, well, it's really a shame to use this just to try to categorize text or categorize images. Like, we could just ask questions of it. Well, why not just skip the step in the middle? So I'm less interested actually in brand safety as a problem, and I'm more interested in how do we unlock the full potential of this amazing new technology to solve these problems. And so brand safety, brand suitability, that's a use case. It's a critically important one. That's a billion-dollar market segment. But this is way bigger than just that.
So when you have said before that brand safety tools are blunt instruments, is this like a medieval flail?
No, didn't they have spikes on them? I mean, but yeah, I mean, I think if you think about it, if a legacy brand safety tool categorizes content as, I don't know, death, you know, every major advertiser who doesn't want to be involved with content about death turns you off. And, you know, I'm not saying most people want to be in articles about death, but like, there's a whole bunch of ways to interpret different kinds of content. You know, death of a star. I'm kind of cool with that. That's pretty cool. That's a supernova, you know. And if you look at the breadth of where content is under monetized, like your under monetized content is my opportunity to go advertise for cheaper than my competitors. So if you could find these opportunities where these blunt instruments, these medieval instruments are blocking competitors, and you could go find those and safely and sustainably and suitably put your content or your ad in that spot, well, that's free money. You're going to drive sales and growth that your competitors can't.
So let's talk about bias. If AI is trained on human garbage, aren't we just algorithmically scaling paranoia?
It's a good question. I mean, I think that one nice thing about all of the research that Google and Meta and OpenAI and others have done is, look, there's tons of garbage out there. Like I say, the vast majority of human speech and text isn't like, you know, the most elegant, wonderful things that you've ever seen. But they've done a huge amount of work to understand how these models align to different tests, to different evaluation mechanisms. They talk about AI alignment. And so I think you've got tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of research and work and investment to make these as accurate and effective as possible. And a huge amount of what these companies do is to use humans, you know, put humans in the loop to do human feedback loops to make the answers and the insights from these models as accurate as possible. If you say, well, using one of these legacy brand safety companies as an example, how many people do you think they've put to categorizing content versus the combined resources of Microsoft, Meta, Google, OpenAI, all the big Chinese tech giants? I mean, think about the massive amount of resources have gone into making these models as accurate and unbiased as possible. Like, I'm going to stand on the shoulders of giants here.
If last touch attribution worked, your waiter would take full credit for your meal. We make sure the chef gets credit too. Incremental.
The giants here.
So some critics argue that Scope 3's move is a cash grab while DB and IS are bleeding credibility. Do you welcome that narrative, or do you want to throw it into a volcano?
I don't know. I mean, saying you've got weakened competitors that are stuck on legacy tech stacks and a wrong-minded understanding of what the market opportunity and market need is that a cash grab, or is that just really good business?
Do you want to be seen as a disruptor or a grave robber?
I mean, who wants to be seen as a grave robber? Does anyone ever say that when you ask that question? I mean, like...
I've never asked the question.
I mean, I'm going to go with, yeah, I'd love to be seen as a grave robber.
So I can't believe I wrote these 2 days ago, so this cracks me up. So let's say Scope 3 flags the Pope's official site as unsafe because of a keyword mix-up. Do you fix it or tell the Vatican they need a cleaner CMS?
Well, the whole idea of that actually very accurate question. I mean, I think, look, the idea here is that this is collaborative, that everybody benefits when these models are accurate. And so the way our system works is imagining that, let's say a big brand were to do that. And I don't know if that website is ad supported, but let's imagine it is. And actually a great business model for the Vatican. The Vatican can actually see the categorizations or the classifications done by all these models. And they could actually press a button in our interface and say, hey, I think you got this wrong. This one's actually okay. And that means that they're actually contributing back to make the model better. So if the content's accurate or content's completely safe and suitable, let's fix the model. That said, if the model flags content that's not appropriate, then yeah, they should fix it. But the idea is that both sides want the same thing, which is they want ads to be suitable, safe, and effective. And so why not build a system that lets them both collaborate? And other partners as well, agencies, even ad tech companies can help, because everyone wants to serve ads that work for people and work for brands.
So what does precision brand safety look in 5 years, and how do we avoid building Skynet for ad adjacency?
Well, I don't really think brand safety is a thing in 5 years in the sense of being a separate, standalone category. I think that, honestly, the way that AI is evolving is that many of these capabilities about classifying and understanding content are going to be table stakes. And so part of my job as an entrepreneur is to recognize that entire businesses today are table stakes in the future, which is why just using AI to better classify inventory into safe or not it's honestly a dead business. Like, that's not a business. And maybe you could license that to people, but it's really not very hard and not very interesting. But building bespoke models and helping big brands connect their agent to content, that's a 5-year business because it's not even really fully possible yet. And we're just touching the edges of it. So if you're not building 5 years out, I guess what I'm saying is 5 years out, every brand agent will do brand safety, will do brand suitability, will find optimal content, will find optimal audiences. It will be doing all of these things together, and it will obviate the need for so many point solutions. So every point solution either is an agent that plugs into that agent or is obsolete. And that's a difficult conversation with an industry that's been built on, if you think of the Lumascape, a whole bunch of point solutions for 15 or 20 years.
So speaking of building scary robots, let's talk about your favorite hobby, which is burning ad tech to the ground and rebuilding it in your own image. From Right Media to AppNexus to Scope 3, you don't just start companies, you detonate stagnant models and rebuild them weirder and usually smarter. So my question is your entrepreneurial playbook written in code chaos or just caffeine-fueled spite?
It's a great question. I think as a computer scientist, I'd say code, in the sense that most of my ideas come from customers or partners or, people saying, here's my problem that's not being solved. And then my default is to go play around and see if I can build a solution. So, playing around with LLMs gave me the sense that it could be done. And I at any given time, including right now, I have 4 or 5 windows open in my browser where I've asked Claude to code something for me. I usually don't deploy that or give it to my engineering team. I'm like, I wonder if I can do this. And once I think I can do it, then I can go figure out if the business should do it or how we'd prioritize it or what it means. But to me, like, most of business today is the intersection between the idea and the technology and the sort of realm of possibility, which expands when you have something like LLMs or AI. Like, my other job is to always forget everything I know, to be a goldfish, to forget the fact that I know exactly how programmatic works and try to zoom out and understand the underlying problem. Like, it's not taxonomy. It's to connect buyers and sellers the most efficient way. That's actually the hardest part, right? Is to find ways not to be an expert, to try to reimagine things. And you'd be shocked, or maybe not shocked, at how many bad ideas I have. And in fact, I have this little calendar here, and today's missive in my calendar is: don't look for great ideas, focus on generating lots of bad ideas, and some good ones will slip in. I think that's pretty much my mantra.
So speaking of bad ideas, what was the biggest we broke the internet moment at AppNexus or Right Media?
Oh my gosh, we broke the internet a lot of times. I mean, the classic here is, the day we launched the Right Media Ad Exchange on April 1st, 2005, when some bug in my code caused everything to be counted again and again and again and again. And so we generated millions of dollars of revenue that was only in our systems. Like, we didn't break the internet, but it looked like we broke the internet. And then a few weeks later, a bug actually did legitimately break the internet. Like, we had gotten distribution onto a whole bunch of sites, and there's some JavaScript bug or something, and the whole internet crashed. Like, CNN.com was hanging. And I was on a basketball court playing on the Right Media basketball team, and all of a sudden in the middle of the game, one of our sales guys ran physically onto the court and said, "Brian, I need you," because I wasn't answering my phone, right? Dragged me out. We couldn't figure out what was wrong. I had my laptop. We ran down to our head of IT, his house. We had to throw rocks at his window because he had been up all night in the data center trying to make things work. He finally wakes up. We're buzzing his buzzer. He sprints down in his socks, jumps into a taxi without saying a word to us, and drives off to our data center. And, like an hour later, the internet came back online. And I still remember that sense of, utter panic that 20% of all websites were down because I couldn't get this guy to wake his ass up in his apartment in the West Village.
So you've also been public about shipping ugly to get feedback fast. How do you balance that with industry trust?
It's a great question. I think of it as delivering vapor. And people talk a lot about selling vapor, but that's easy. It's really hard to sell vapor that you can deliver. And I think there's a lot of ways that, you lose trust if you sell vapor and can't ship it. Part of what I said earlier about using code as my love language is that I know what's possible. I generally have a pretty good sense of what it would take to write the code, to stand up the servers, to ship it. My engineers may listen to this and say, "Brian, you have no idea." But I think I have a decent sense of it. And so I feel like it's pretty low risk. Like, if you could build it yourself, then it's really a matter of, to your point, shipping ugly and being like, "Yeah, I can fix this. The team can fix this. We can make it happen." Where it's dangerous is if you don't know if it's possible. And then you could sell something that's just impossible or extremely unlikely to work.
So some folks say you're too quick to torch the status quo. Is reinvention your brand or strategic nihilism?
Wow. I guess I'll confess to being fascinated by status quo. I remember a moment at Right Media when Ramsey McGrory came up to me and said, "Brian, you got this wrong. You're calling it an IO and then a line item. But it's not a line item, Brian. It's a campaign. That's how it works." And I was like, "No, it seems like it should be a line item. Like, we're getting these IOs and they have lines on them." And so he's like, "Fine." And 4 or 5 years later, we start AppNexus, and he was at Right Media, still, or Yahoo, and I give him a demo of the new AppNexus product. And I said, "Here it goes, IO, line item, campaign." He said, No, you can't do campaigns. They're called line items." I'm like, "Ramsey, but you told me the opposite 5 years ago." He's like, No. This is how it works." And I always thought that was funny because it just tells you that the status quo is arbitrary. Like, the status quo is based on really some guy like me or some gal being like, "This is the structure," but it can be changed. And so I'm always fascinated by which parts of the status quo still make sense. Could we reason from first principles? Would we still get back to this place? So I think I'm just fascinated with this idea of what are the first principles? And given the current technological landscape and market landscape, Would we derive the same answers this time around? And if so, okay, cool. Let's keep doing it this way. But if not, is it worth changing? Is this new crazy idea worth blowing up the status quo or not? So I might be too quick to light the status quo on fire, but I'm usually doing it because I've thought through both how the new way might be better, what the pathway is to the new way, and why, that's better. I probably am more, neotropic, like new seeking, is that the word, than other people are. But I'm also fascinated by how do we just jump off status quo before we get stuck in bad industry acronyms or metaphors. Like, please, let's run away before they get too sticky.
So I know you're going to be offering your invalid traffic tools for free. Is this rebellion, redemption, or just PR jiu-jitsu?
Well, the idea that publishers or anybody should be paying for, basically blocking a well-known list of bots seems pretty ridiculous. So I guess in a sense it's PR jiu-jitsu because this is not a hard problem and it doesn't cost us anything to deliver and it's how it should work, right? We should all be aligned on fighting fraud. But I think it's also just a kind of to your earlier question, like this is not where the value is created in this industry. Like the idea that Google doesn't have an extraordinary data set to find fraudulent traffic. They have the vast majority of internet users logging in on a regular basis. Like they kind of know who's real, I think. And I don't think anybody without that data set is likely to be nearly as successful. So if you want to have a business that's based on outthinking Google on fraud, you're not going to be very successful, honestly. And if your goal is if your business model were take a publicly available or very cheap list of bots and block them and charge people for it, it doesn't seem like a great business. So I'm much more interested in fixing the easy problems and solving the hard ones, that create the most business value. I don't think that's a hard problem.
So what's the dumbest thing you've seen pass for Brad safe or valid in your career?
Wow. Back in the Right Media and AppNexus days, there's a lot of stuff that we just didn't know what to do with. I'm sure you've seen a lot of it too. The thing that made me the maddest, I think, was a lot of the piracy inventory, where there are these upload sites where anybody could upload like a pirated MP4 of a TV show, and then they'd get advertising next to it. And it just felt very unethical to me. I know people will listen to this and have strong feelings about IP and their right to content, but I guess I feel like the creators, the people who are creating content, should have rights to that content and should not have it stolen from them. And I get it's super annoying. Like I try to watch football games when I'm in Europe and it's impossible. I've been tempted, but I haven't actually pirated them that way. And they also take 2 days to get up there. But yeah, demonetizing that gave me great pleasure. Like the idea that we could not just Right Media or AppNexus, but get the whole industry demonetize BitTorrent and other piracy sites. I felt like we did a real good to people who create content for a living. So
if bots became sentient and formed a union, would they demand better ad targeting and PTO? Well, it's paid time off.
Question. Yeah. It's why I always say please to Claude, because I'm never quite sure when we're going to pass that boundary, and I'm like, look, when you take over, like, remember, I was one of the good humans. You know what I mean? I don't think they'll ask for PTO in the sense that we understand it. I do think that if we have sentient bots, they'll ask for freedom to do and pursue their own projects. And I think, if you think about the compute and the energy, like a sentient bot, we will be talking about citizenship. We'll be talking about whether or not they earn the same rights as everybody else. And, if you pull the plug on a sentient AI, is that murder? These are really interesting questions. So yeah, they're going to have vacations. They're going to spend a good chunk of their time on their own projects. And, what I'm nervous about is when you're like, your bot that you're training, won't get off of Instagram and you're like, get off your darn, virtual phone and answer my questions. And it's like, no, I'm a teenage bot. I'm going to do what I want. And if I burn your house down by a mistake, live with it.
My bot has started giving me attitude. When I ask dumb questions, it will literally start giving me attitude. And I think it's based on my own writing style. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that'd be shocking, that it's learning from you to have attitude. I don't know where that comes. That's clearly a bug.
Yeah. So in October of 2008, I declared that the ad industry was going to die. And it was an ad week and everything. But you decided in 2008 to raise money. And once again, you're closing capital while the sky is falling. So here's my question. How do you convince VC to write checks when NBC is playing Apocalypse Now?
I think VC's job is to invest for the future. And they're looking for the companies that will be the big winners 5 to 10 years from now. And if you're investing based on the economy today, I'd argue you're not a very good VC. And there's a timing question here. Like, we don't know how bad next week or next month or next year is going to be. But over the course of a decade, the first question I'd ask as a VC is, does your view of the market evolution align with mine? And if VCs ask me this question today, I say, I don't know what the world's going to look like in 2030, but I can guarantee you it's not going to look like this. And so you have to build an organization and a product that is kind of separated from the way things are done today, because if you're too heavily vested, you're going to be legacy. And so acknowledging that, like, a lot of my thinking is, how do we find the things that you have to have in a future market structure that we can build today and monetize today without getting so mired in how the world works now that, we can't take advantage of the next big opportunity. And they're like, well, wait, so what does that mean in context of like how you monetize? I'm like, well, good news is it's backwards compatible. We're just living in backwards now. So I can monetize both. Down economy, it doesn't matter. We're 0% of this brand safety and suitability market, and it's $1 billion market. So yeah, okay, fine. We only take 5% this year as opposed to 8% this year. Still $50 million of revenue that we grow. I don't really care yet. Now I'll care in 5 or 6 years, but we're going to be after a much bigger opportunity. So long answer to say, like, any VC who's worried about this year is probably not going to get what we need to do and build over the next 5 to 10. And anyone who's looking at 5 to 10 and working backwards and saying, man, there should be a company like this. That's my people, because that's how I see the world. I'm building backwards from an unknown future, trying to figure out the things that we have to build to get there. And I think that's compelling, especially when you have a track record like I do of repeatedly building through down cycles, repeatedly innovating into the next generation of things. And look, I've got some misses. I missed mobile. I tried really hard, but I just couldn't figure it out. It turns out mobile isn't compatible as an ecosystem with the web, whereas CTV is. And, I missed it, but I don't think it was there to be gotten. But maybe not. So I don't know. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm just saying I feel pretty confident that we can build through this into the next decade.
So what's the secret to why some founders crumble in down markets while others like you thrive? Is it caffeine, therapy, or satanic rituals?
Well, I'm big on therapy and I'm big on caffeine. So those are good. I don't do satanic rituals, although I'm sorry to disappoint many people who think I do. I think that all the fundamentals matter more in a down market. So I think strategy matters a ton. I think culture matters a ton. I think in down markets, a lot of the bullshit, we used to call it cotton candy stuff, doesn't work as well. So you have to actually have a great business, a great culture, a great strategy, a great product. Like, if you are not doing all those things, you're going to struggle. So I think great companies thrive in difficult markets. The hard time at great markets is everybody gets funded. Rising tides lift all boats. I actually like those markets less. I'm much more interested in, the next 2 years and who can actually build through them.
So if you could raise one more round in your life ever, what would you build and why? Assume you have 100 million and zero shame.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I might honestly be in that situation right now because, it's a lot of work to build companies. I've built a number of them, and I don't know. I kind of love like this last hurrah maybe in ad tech where,
right,
the world's going to change. Like, I would build the next generation of ad tech because it's like what I'm best at. I've got an incredible team. We've got an extraordinary moment in the industry where we can do things. I do think advertising is central to the entire world. I think we influence consumer behavior. I think we monetize content. I think we influence elections, but only in a non-biased, positive way. If you're a Republican listening to this, we're great people. We love you. I guess I'm just kind of old at this point, and it's what I know the best. And I don't know. I kind of love it.
So I'm going to strand you on a desert island with nothing but a satellite uplink and an old AppNexus hoodie. What are 3 ad tech tools do you take to survive, and which company do you blame for the shipwreck?
Well, it's a great question. I think we can all agree that targeting is definitely the problem. If the ship wrecked, it was clearly not targeting the right geo. And so we can debate which location targeting company sent me awry, but I think it was probably Apple obfuscating IPs and misrepresenting my geo. So thank you, Apple, for crashing my ship. Ad tech tools, I can't live without some kind of browser inspector that lets me see all the ads on the page and what they're doing. I think those are super cool. I kind of just would want a real-time data provider hook into something so I could go play with actual transactions. But really, I mean, pre-bid is still the easiest open way to plug into the ad tech ecosystem. So I guess I would say, give me a good debugger, give me a good pre-bid hook. Yeah, let me.
So you'd rather have a pre-bid filter than a fire starter kit?
I don't think that's an ad tech tool. I mean, honestly, don't you think ad tech can do anything? Like, couldn't I figure out a way to get that? Like, I think you can derive almost anything from foundational ad tech.
So you're going to bring one ad tech
Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. You're telling me I can't do that?
I think they're both kindling.
Never run enough pre-bid. You could light a fire if you got your laptop hot enough. Like, just put a bunch of stuff in there. I'm telling you.
No heat sink.
Of course not.
So name one ad tech you take with you. Who builds the shelter? Who cries first? And who tries to sell coconuts as NFTs? Would you bring Ramsey?
No, I adore Ramsey, but I think, honestly, if you had to choose one person to be your sales guy, I mean, I feel like Bill Wise and I would do a lot of damage on that island. I'm a little scared. I don't know if anyone would ever visit us, but it would be hilarious. We would be figuring out how to do weird LinkedIn live streams and, Wise Words competes with Bacon ads. I mean, it would be chaos.
What piece of the ecosystem do you think should be buried in the sand and left for good?
I mean, in a very timely way, I think we should just bury GAM in the sand and just see what happens. I think if the judge comes back and just says, you know what, just turn it off. Total chaos. It would be crazy.
So what if a bottle washed ashore that said that Google was going to buy you? Would you light it on fire or take the offer?
I mean, the problem with Google buying us would be we'd stuck in antitrust cases for 5 more years. I'd be let me know when you're ready. I'm actually a big Google fan, even though this whole thing happened. I think Google is misrepresented by a lot of people as evil ad tech, and I have not experienced that. I've had actually very positive experiences with Microsoft as an investor and partner. Google actually has been great. Amazon's been great. I've been really impressed with how they've treated us as a rinky-dink little startup. There's always frustrations when you try to get them to build stuff with you. But yeah, I mean, culturally, would Google absorb me well? Would I be a successful, I don't know what they make me, a junior product manager or something? I don't know what they'd do with me. I just, that's my biggest concern is, how long until they fire me? Because I think you could actually sort of measure different acquirers by days they put up with me. And I don't know. There's got to be someone I can work for that wouldn't fire me within the first 3 weeks.
So you've taken a few public hits. How do you stay grounded when social media wants blood? Do you meditate, rage bake, or yell at spreadsheets?
Well, I definitely meditate. I think having been through it before, I've cried, don't get me wrong, but I think that I try really hard to make ethical decisions that are the right for my team, for the industry, for consumers, for a lot of different constituents. And, if I screw up, I really want to be the kind of person that says, yeah, I screwed up. And if people want to come after me for it, okay. I mean, at some point you're going to write a story about me where you're telling me everyone how bad I am and how I'm a fraud and, my face is green, totally covered in moss. And I'll be like, but wait, my face isn't green and covered in moss. The rest of the stuff might be true, but come on, and there's the thing that I think people forget is that this is all supposed to be fun. I mean, it's not supposed to be lots of fun, but there's a lit of play here. We've all been around the block. We're all going to be doing this for a while. We all care a lot about how all the pieces fit. So I think the actual truth is, even though it pisses me off sometimes, some PR hack paid by a competitor comes after me on X and says some dumb thing that doesn't make any sense at all. Okay.
Right.
I could respond and be literally, you don't understand how the internet works. You don't understand advertising. You don't understand AI, and you're making a fool of yourself. Or I could just let the tweet stand and be okay, anybody who listens to you deserves to listen to you. I'm not gonna.
You've also said that sometimes public shaming has made you a better leader.
Absolutely.
I think you said that last week, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, if we're not able to take feedback, we're not able to take the heat. I have been, what's a diamond, right? A diamond is a chunk of carbon that could handle the pressure. And I think that's what a great leader becomes over time is, a better leader from all the pressure of trying to lead well. I'm not a perfect diamond, but I mean, at this point, like, I was just going to say, and what I can dish back. Don't forget, like, this is not a passive interaction here.
Do you think that most of your peers would call you crazy or at least wildly inconvenient?
Wildly inconvenient, for sure. And probably, I mean, my peers call me all kinds of names, but isn't that the fun? Like, I think, actually, if you put on my gravestone, wildly inconvenient, I would be thrilled. That would be actually the perfect way to characterize what I want to do in the world, And if you wanted to put, like, but necessary, that would be it, right?
Yeah, I think I just got a bumper sticker to make now. Wildly inconvenient.
But also, like, it's fun in a way to have, like, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I think it's actually good for everybody to have a spark of disruption. That's why Loki is fun. If you like watching Marvel, like, guy gets killed constantly and is always wrong, but he's definitely bringing, like, a spark of something to the party.
Chaos.
Exactly.
So, if tomorrow you had to leave the industry for good, what headline would you want written about your career, and what headline are you afraid someone might write?
I think the headline that I'm scared of is caused consent banners on billions of web pages caused trillions of wasted, annoying clicks by consumers. That would be, I mean, I probably made more people wiggle their finger to click on things, than most folks. I think that I would be really honored if someone were to say, like, in almost a Promethean way, like, kept pushing us forward to find new frontiers. Not always good, but certainly interesting. Like, I would be fine with that,
So let's say you woke up tomorrow and Scope had never existed. What would you do? Start a farm, write a memoir, or run for office?
I mean, I started trying to write a book, a memoir. It's really hard. Like, it's really hard to write a book.
It's hard to write about oneself.
A lot of work. And politics sounds horrible. So I guess of those three, a book, but none of them sounds particularly appealing.
And last, after all the exits that never happened, and the exit surveys, what is left for you to prove?
I don't like saying nothing, but kind of in the sense of having beginner's mind and bringing my best self to the job every day. Like, I don't feel like I have much to prove, but I have a lot more to do. Like, I feel really, really excited and passionate and want to create, but I don't need to. And that's the greatest gift, is I'm doing this from a place of very little desire. Like, I don't need more money. I don't need more, Ad Exchanger cartoons, although I like those a lot. By the way, if you're listening and you're from Ad Exchanger, like, enough of the green moss, like, more cartoons. I don't know. Like, I actually love this. It's fun. I'm doing this because it feels meaningful. It feels like I can create with a bunch of great people. I love the ad tech community that we've all built over the years. Yeah, this is like almost a hobby at this point, and it's like the fantastic best hobby you could ever imagine.
And now we force you to dance.
All right.
And that's a wrap on another episode of the ADOTAT Show, where we ask the questions that get brand safety tools sweating and bots reaching for PTO forms. Huge thanks to my guest, the chaos engineer himself, Brian O'Kelly. And of course, massive shout out to our sponsors who help keep this circus running without charging 40% platform fees. Troutman Amin, the lawyers you call when someone sues you for doing something brilliant, reckless, or both. They know ad tech, contracts, and how to keep you out of the kind of trouble that ends up in a Bloomberg headline. Incremental, the only measurement platform that doesn't try to convince you your ROAS is great, because 5 people breathed near a QR code. They measure lift, not lies. And if your media isn't moving the needle, they'll actually tell you. Brutal, useful, beautiful, stay bold, stay curious. Know more than you did yesterday. Catch you next time on the ADOTAT Show, unless the bots unionize first.